Welcome to Muscle Maintenance with InShape Fitness. I'm Coach Kim. Thank you so much for joining me. Today's 20-minute muscle maintenance routine is called Monday Motivation, and it's your chance to calibrate your work week. So join me for this 20-minute session, equipment-free session that is going to wake up your brain, activate your entire body. We're going to use a dynamic warm-up and then 3 sets of 3 exercises each to boost your metabolism, boost your energy, and work the entire body. Let's get started with the postural systems check, which is a basic way to stand up really tall, push the noise out of your brain. I know you've already got a ton of things going on that you're thinking about for your work week, but you want to just think about your body, think about your breath. So take air in through your nose, smell the air in your surroundings. Hopefully it smells good. And then bellow the air out through your mouth pretty energetically, right? So bellow out, inhale in through your nose, and then out through your mouth with that big exhale. And then stand up really tall, and let's just go through the body parts to make sure that everything is in alignment. Your head should be on top of your shoulders, obviously, and you want your ears and your shoulders to line up vertically. What that means is that your head is back. When your head is forward, which is a stance that a lot of people develop over time, where you sit at a desk and you're staring at a screen, or you're driving a car, your head is kind of craning forward a little bit, and that throws off your center of gravity, which actually causes lots of little problems that occur over time. So get the head back, make sure your ears are lined up with your shoulders, and your chest is back. Your shoulders are back and your chest is open, rather. You want to zip up your tummy muscles as we're going south here. You want to tuck in your tailbone. Make sure that you're not sticking your butt out, which is another symptom of sitting around all day in our sedentary lifestyles. And then you want to make sure that your hips are squared, that your hips, your knees, and your ankles line up vertically. And then tug on your butt cheeks a little bit, squeeze those butt muscles so that you can find them, and then squeeze your quads, your thigh muscles, and then think about your feet for a second. And with your feet, and we're going to be talking about this as we do the first exercise, you want to make sure that you are using all 4 corners of each of your feet. That means that you are pressing into the floor with both sides of your feet and with the front and the back part of your feet, each of your feet, so that you're not kind of off the center in terms of pressing too much on the outside of your foot, that supination or versus pronation, where you're pressing on the inside of your foot, and then also where your dominant leg will tend to have more body pressure put on it. You want to make sure that you're using your left and your right foot equally. Okay. Now we're going to start the first move, and it's a real basic one. It's called the Lighthouse. If you work out with these podcasts, you know that I love this exercise, or with me in face-to-face in New York City where I am, you know that this balance, the discombobulation of your vestibular system, is a method I use for people to become a little more aware of that left-right dominant thing and the imbalances that develop over time because of our lifestyles. So bring your feet into a heel to toe position. So one foot is forward, one foot is just behind it, but both feet face forward, both toes are pointing forward. And then you extend your arms out to the sides with your palms facing down. You're gonna immediately feel off balance a little bit. And that's okay. If it's really off balance, if you're struggling to stay upright, then stagger your feet a little bit so you widen your stability base just a smidge in order to make sure that you don't fall over completely. Because now what you do with the move is actually turn your head. You turn your head all the way to the right, slowly, so that you can gaze down the length of your right arm. And then turn your head. This is the lighthouse part, where your head is the turning light. And then you turn your head all the way to the left. So just do that a couple of times slowly. Don't need to do any certain number of repetitions. It's going to be for another couple of seconds, and then we're going to switch feet so that the other foot is in the rear. And the reason that this is a really effective exercise for breathing, for awareness, proprioception, where your body is and your ability to understand where your body parts are in space, is something called proprioception. Switch your feet now, by the way. These are all really important sort of baby steps. These are like pitter-patter fitness steps as far as, making inroads in terms of activating your metabolism. Yeah, you're not going to get, like a ripped six-pack abs and sculpted muscles and that little black dress, tight little body by doing this kind of workout. But you do find yourself feeling better, being able to do more, and having and experiencing less pain in your day-to-day life by getting up every day and doing something to stimulate your physical self before you sit down to do your work. Okay, now what I want you to do is something called a walkout. So we're going to get into the thick of things here. We're going to do 3 sets of 3 exercises each. 3 positions. The first is standing, but you're going to stand in your earthworm or the walkout position where you squat all the way down and then walk your hands out to the push-up position and then walk your hands back and stand all the way up. If you feel uncomfortable bending your knees and bending your body so that you walk out and then walk back in, then you can do a simple squat. The point of this exercise is to activate your heart rate, to elevate your heart rate. You're interacting with gravity by getting down on the floor and then getting back up. You've got 20 more seconds to go, and that's always a great thing. So we're going to add in a little bit of butt work while you're standing on your feet. A lot of what we do is really core focused. So we use a combination of exercises that relate to things like, traditional calisthenics, plyometrics, and then Pilates and yoga and flexibility training to utilize that kinetic center that you have to be able to do the moves that make the most amount of difference for a short period of time to be as efficient as possible. Okay, now we're going to do some forward kicks. And this is the second exercise. So I want you to bring your hands up in front of your body, in front of your face, is like protecting your face like a kickboxer would. And then you lift up your left knee really high to about your hip level. And then kick out the lower leg and foot, and then put your foot back down on the floor. And then repeat. Same leg. Let's do 10 on each leg. Lift up the knee, kick out the foot, bend the knee, put the leg back down, put the foot back down on the floor. All right, that's all you're doing. And you're holding your arms up. That keeps that elbow about at your chin level or shoulder level. And then it also forces your heart to push that oxygenated blood up where your arms are. You don't use your arms, obviously, in kicking, but if your hands are on your hips, that's fine as well. It's just that in that defensive position, you're lifting your elbows above your heart sort of physical level, which forces it to send oxygenated blood up and out instead of just down where your arms would be on your hips, your hands on your hips. Now switch to the other side. So you're doing 10 on the left leg, 10 on the right leg, and then we're going to add a lunge in. And then we're going to do a combination where we do one walkout, we do a kick and a lunge, and then we do a kick and a lunge. All right, so now we're finishing up those right-legged kicks. Let's do 10 left-legged lunges. And I often do reverse lunges with the forward kick as a combination, but you can do forward lunges. You can do forward curtsy lunges, depending on the complexity that you would like to have and your current ability level. Also, if you need to take it easy with your knee bends, hold on to something to make sure that you're stable as you bend both of your knees and lower the body down. And you can shorten the depth of your lunges in order to protect your knees as well. Okay, so now let's do that combination because I want to get us down on the floor so that we can do 2 more sets, one facing the floor and one facing up. So the last sort of portion here of the standing circuit is for you to do a walkout and then a kick lunge and then a kick lunge and then a walkout and then a kick lunge and then a kick lunge. And you're going to basically do 2 full rounds, and then it's going to be time to go down to the floor permanently. So you've got about 30 more seconds. Do as many as you can, but again, pay attention to your breath. You want to inhale, smell the air around you in terms of your inhale, your respiration cycle, and then bellow that air out through your mouth for that full and complete exhalation. Inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. Okay, now drop down to the floor. We're going to do a downward facing dog to start. Actually, you can sit in child's pose for a couple seconds if you want to stretch out your back just a little bit, limber up your back, or do a couple of cat Campbells. It's, exerciser's choice here a little bit, and it should be, because this is a podcast exercise workout, and if you're listening to this and you're doing the moves, it means that you have some knowledge of what you need to do. You're listening to my voice, and I'm giving you these, helping you with the adjustments, helping you refine and perfect your efficiencies, your body sort of movements, and then you're doing the things that you need to do for your own ability level. So lift your body up into downward facing dog. And that means that your butt is high in the air, the apex of a triangle. And then your arms and torso make one leg. And then your legs make the other leg. Now you want your knees to be pushed back so that your legs are not locked but straight. And your heels do not need to touch the floor. But if they do, that's great. That means that the back of your leg is pretty flexible. Excellent. So this is downward facing dog. Now, what I want you to do for one of our official exercises is something that we call a downward dog squat or a pike squat. That means that you bend your knees in this position and then straighten your legs. So you bend your knees, you don't drop all the way to the floor, but then you straighten your legs. So keep that going for about 30 seconds. The one really important factor in all of the movements when you use your hands on the floor is to make sure that you Spider-Man the floor. I say this over and over again with a podcast routines that I do, and I've done hundreds of them, as well as in my personal sessions and with our corporate clients. You need to make sure that you Spider-Man the floor. You use the fingertips and your palm in its entirety instead of mashing the heel of your hand into the floor. You've got 3 seconds. 2, 1, rest back in child's pose. When we get to the sort of roundabout, I'm going to give you a couple of other adjustments that you can make to that downward dog squat that make it a little bit more challenging, or you can continue to do those as you just did, where you just bend the knees and straighten the legs. But there are lots of really interesting moves that you can do that move the body as though you were a four-legged animal. It gets into sort of the primitive trunk, the kinetic core sort of ability that our human bodies have, and that force some of the smaller muscles to engage and help support the body and keep the spine from getting a little too comfortable in the singular positions that we find ourselves as humans sitting at our desks. Again, pretty much that's what we do. We lie down for our sleeping time and we sit at our desks or in a car or wherever, on a couch for our waking time. There's just not a lot of other movement going on in regular life. Okay, now put your elbows on the floor. Let's do a plank for 30 seconds. So elbows on the floor, hands flat out, your shoulders and your elbows line up vertically. You lift your body up onto the balls of your feet and your toes. You're facing the floor. Your butt is down, and it should be hard. You're not going to be able to smell deeply the air around you, but take in little sniff breaths through your nose and continue to try and exhale through your mouth. All right, your time is going for 30 seconds. Again, if you are already pretty strong and you want to make a regular plank more challenging, there are a multitude of ways to do that. You probably have seen lots of variations where you do corkscrew hipping, where you lift your butt up high and lower it down low, where you move your feet, where you can lift up onto a three-legged position or a two-legged position. Lots of different things. Your 30 seconds is over, so go ahead and take a break back in child's pose. The last thing that we're going to do, push-ups. Now, push-ups are hard, and push-ups are impossible for some people. So don't feel like you have to do anything with respect to the traditional military form of push-up that you see people do in the gym. Even if you are relatively fit, doing push-ups can be difficult because you have weak arms, because we don't do anything with our upper bodies these days, except for exercise willfully, and for the most part. But you can get into the right position and be prepared to learn how to do some push-ups, which are really valuable for a number of reasons, and I'll talk about that in a second. But when you are in your standard push-up position, you're up onto your hands in plank with the balls of your feet on the floor, and your shoulders and your hands line up. They're lined up vertically, but then you can sort of move your hands a little bit into a wider than shoulder width position in order to utilize your chest a little bit more than just focusing on your biceps and your shoulders. So however you want to do that, and then drop to your knees to do your push-ups. We're going to just go for 30 seconds, and your time is starting now. So inhaling as you go down, smell your air on the way down with your nose, and then bellow back out with the mouth. Big exhale through the mouth as you push back up. All right, 15 seconds already done. If you're on your knees, try to keep your butt down. If you can't even do knee push-ups, that's okay too. Just hold the position for a few more seconds. 3, 2, rest, back in child's pose. Excellent. Okay, I want to do a quick round robin here, where you go to downward dog, and then you do one downward dog squat. Then you lower down to your elbows, hold a plank for a count of 3 seconds, and then lift back up onto your hands, and then do one push-up. All right, 30 seconds, your time starts now. So just do that over and over again. One downward dog squat, onto your elbows for plank for 3 seconds, back up onto your hands for one push-up. Downward dog squat, plank for 3 seconds, one push-up. Downward dog squat, plank for 3 seconds, and one push-up. You've got about 5 seconds to go. If you want to try to do one more, that's great. Otherwise, turn to your back and extend your arms over your head and your legs out straight for an active corpse, just for a couple of deep breaths. Again, inhale through your nose, smell the air around you, and then bellow that exhale out. Bellow the carbon dioxide out of your body. You really want to think about the efficiency of your respiratory system for not just exercise purposes when you're, doing that repetitive type stuff, like whether it's running or biking or ellipticals or whatever. Getting the right air in the right way through your nose, and then exhaling through your mouth. Really, really good for your lungs. Okay, so bend your knees, put your hips up in the air. Your feet are flat on the floor, and your hips are up in the air. You should keep your toes down to make sure that you feel the back of the leg. And this is a hip bridge. So for 30 seconds, just the standard dip, lowering your hips down, lifting back up. And then keep that going as we move along to the next exercise, which is something we call a teapot. Now you lower your butt and you lift up your feet. Now your feet are in the air. Your back is still flat on the floor, right? So you're literally like kind of an H, a small case H on its side, or in like an astronaut launch position where there's a 90-degree angle between your torso and your thighs, right? Don't push your knees away from your body. If you've shortened that angle, you've made that smaller. So you want a 90-degree angle, and then your knees are bent at 90 degrees. Now keep the right leg just hanging out in the air there, but your left leg, using your hip as the hinge, you tap the left foot down and then lift the foot back into the starting position. That really zeroes in on your hip flexor. It also, because you're suspending your feet, your legs in the air that way, you're forced to really stabilize your body with your lower core. So it's a really safe way to exercise the lower part of your core, and then switch to the other side. Just another minute or two and we'll be finished altogether. Now, if for some reason you don't feel comfortable putting your head on the floor in like an office setting, well, maybe you should bring a mat and just do it in your office anyways. These are not, again, exercises that are going to drive up a huge amount of sweat and force you to have to change clothes to get into exercise clothes. Obviously, there are some practical limitations if you're doing something like this in an office setting, but there are lots of different, if you needed to do something like this standing up, you could suspend one leg in the air, lift it up, stand up on one leg. Even if you're holding on to something and you're not doing like a tree stand, you can stabilize your weight on one leg and then lift up your knee and tap your foot down slowly in front of your body over and over again for that direct hit to the hip flexor. So that's the point of that. All right, the last exercise is more of a stretch. We call it a windshield wiper. You're still suspended with both knees up in the air, both feet in the air, but drop both knees down to one side and then to the other. You use the lower core to lift your knees up and drop them over to one side. Now remember to keep the 90-degree angle on your legs. The knee should be situated such that your feet make a 90-degree angle with the upper part of your legs. If you bring your heels close to your butt, you are making this windshield wiper exercise a little bit easier. You're not getting quite the forced stability work through the lower core, and that's important. All right, so the last circuit, you want to do a couple of more of these round robins. I'm going to let you go with this end here where you put both feet on the floor. If the hip bridge with two legs, by the way, is too easy, you can always lift one leg up in the air and do one bridge with the left leg, one bridge dip with the right leg, and then lift your feet up into the air for the teapot and then the windshield wipers after that. I'm Coach Kim from In Shape Fitness. Again, this is Monday Motivation. You need a reason to start your week every week with a plan to ensure that you have a daily way to stimulate your physical self in order to keep your energy high, to keep your metabolism going, and to be able to get through your work week so that you can have fun on the weekends. Have a great rest of the day. I will see you again soon.